We're going to do a section view of the axle. So I'm going to hit base, go find my axle, click open, and that size is a little small, so I'm going to make it 3. We can change that later on if we decide that we need to go ahead and make that a little larger. And also I can change the view. So I don't need to see that slot since I'm getting ready to do a section view. So I'm going to click, rotate that around and click OK. And then drag it up here to the corner because I have lots of dimensions on that. Now see these hidden lines? Some people prefer them. Since I'm doing a section view, I'm going to turn those off. So I'm going to right click, edit view, click this middle option under style, hidden line removed, click OK. So now I have that object. I'm going to do a section view. So come up to the top and click section. I want to click on that view and I want to cut it in the middle. See the green dot tells me I'm right in the middle, and then click right through the middle of the object, click, drag slightly up and click continue, and I'm going to drag down. I know I want a lot of room for dimensions, so I'm dragging it way towards the bottom. So now I'm going to go to annotate, dimension, but I'm going to pick baseline because there's a lot of things I want to do and I need to zoom in to get a lot of these. So I want this line that goes up. I want to zoom in to make sure I pick this line. I can pick this groove here, or later on I'm going to be actually dimensioning it later on, so I'm going to skip over that. Click here. This line and this line are in line, so I don't need to pick both of them. This one is slightly off of that one, so I'm going to click on those two. Click here and here. Now I'm going to drag up and right click continue and then snap it right in, and there's my dimensions. I'll click create, right click create. So that gets those dimensions. Now the next thing I want to do is get a center line right in the middle of this revolved axis. There's 2 ways to do it. I can do it by clicking here and here and puts that in, and that's using this particular option, a center line bisector. I'm going to hit Control C because there's another way to do that. I'm going to click and I'm going to do automated center lines, and it is a hole. It doesn't have fillets, but it does have cylindrical features, and it is revolved. I didn't use sheet metal, so I don't have to worry about bends and punches. But I do want to select this projection, so I see axis parallel. Click OK, and there's my center line. I'm going to hit Escape and zoom in. You can drag these out if for some reason you're looking to make those lines longer for whatever purposes. You just drag on the green dots. But we're okay with those so far. So the next thing I want to do is project this view, and I'd like to get a nice little section view of that. So that projected. So I'm going to click projected. I'm going to project from here up to here. Click, and I'd like to see this particular view. And I'm going to hit click and create. So I have those 2 views. Now this view up here, I typically like to have it shaded, so I'm going to click on it, edit view, and I have to deselect style so that I can make it shaded only. If I needed to change its scale for whatever reason, I would deselect this and let's say we want to make it 2.5, so it's not quite as big. So now I have that selected. Now we want to go up here, and I want to put some center lines on that, so I'm going to annotate, and we want to pick center marks. And if I pick the outermost circle, I can get a large view of that. So now we're looking pretty good. There's a couple of things we want to do. We talked about this slot, so let's go ahead and bring in another view. So I'm going to hit base. I want to make sure I get my axle. Now probably will default for most of you, but just in case. Now I have a view of that little notch that's cut out, so I'm going to click OK. And now I want to drag this up, but I would like to have these 2 in line. So the easiest way to do that is just right click on this one, go to alignment, horizontal with this. Now I have that taken care of. I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to drag this a little to the right. And then I'm going to go to annotate, dimension, and for this notch, I want to know how far it is from this back line here to here, it's 0.2, and from here to there. And some people prefer to pick lines, some people prefer to pick points. That's a preference and style. But you notice right here what happened. Because the way I did that, there's no gap. And that's the mistake you'll probably make. So I'm going to hit delete. And now I'm going to go back to dimension. If I pick this outermost point and this point right here, notice I have the gap. So there is a preference on how to do some of these things, but you do want to make sure that the extension lines are not touching the object. So that's a common mistake that students will make. Next thing I want to do, this takes care of most of my dimensioning, and we spend a lot of time on dimensioning, but let's zoom in here, and I want to put some dimensions on this particular center line to, let's say, here. So if I click on that and drag out, I'm going to right click, dimension type, diameter. So that gets me a diameter. Comes with a symbol and everything for it. And then we can go ahead and dimension a lot of these lines from here to here. Right click, dimension type, diameter. And some people really like to line these up just perfectly. We can spend a lot of time on dimensioning for this particular object because it is a difficult one to dimension. And I'm sure even with a lot of time we'll find that we'll miss one or two dimensions. I don't want to spend too much time on dimensioning this object from the standpoint of you get the point and sometimes you lose the forest for the trees, and I don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and click, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this over and make sure we're in a good spot. So that has most of those dimensions, and like I said, you can spend a lot of time trying to get this just perfect. I'm going to hit escape a couple times, get out of dimension type, and here we go. So that takes care of that part. Now, we haven't done anything with these notches, and again, we can spend a lot of time dimensioning on this. But what I do want to do is show you how to do a detailed view. So let's do a detailed view of the notches. So there's my detailed view. And neat thing about detailed view, you can kind of move it around so you can get the parts that you want and the sizes you want. So you can see that's going to get me my parts in here. And you decide what you want for your students. And then I'm going to take this part right here and I'm going to zoom in. And maybe you want to annotate it so that you want to know how far it is from here to there. You may want to know what the angle is. And so you can go linear, symmetrical. See, we got all kinds of options in there, but we want to go ahead and dimension from this flat line to that line. So that gives me that angle. And that takes care of those parts. You can put in some notes in there that you want to say all three are the same and so forth. But that gives you the basic dimensioning and allows you to have a section view, allows you to have one with hidden lines, one without hidden lines, and also a detailed view.